Today on
Doomed!
Putin goes to war in Ukraine, and Trump heralds him as a genius. Why is the right lining up behind Vladimir Putin? We're going to get into all of that and more on this very special edition of Doomed with Matt Binder. But first of all, we're going to have a very special guest on right now to sort of break down what's going on from the perspective of a socialist who born and raised in Russia. And let me pull him up on the screen now so I could give him an actual, real introduction, because neither of us are on the screen right now. 1 second. Okay, so joining me now, he is a socialist thinker and writer, born in the USSR and currently living in Moscow, Russia. Egor Kotkin. Thank you so much for joining me. And please tell me, we went over this before. Did I get your name right? Pronunciation and everything.
First part, it's Egor Kotkin. It's in Russian sounds like that.
Egor Kotkin. All right, I think I got it. But you actually reached out to me on Twitter with a few great threads. Being a Russian living in Moscow, who is a leftist, about really what you're seeing and how people in the U.S. aren't really getting what's going on correctly. And before we went live, I was talking with you about, specifically there is a faction on the American left. They call themselves the anti-imperialist left, and it sounds good. I mean, we should be anti-imperialist, but they seem to also have this pro-Russia or siding with Putin take almost every time. They have to consistently. It's not enough to just say, here's my critique of the U.S. And here's my critique of Russia. It's they got to take a side, and they don't take this. They take the side of Putin.
Well, here's the thing. Yes, living in Russia, I hear talking points that are very distinctively Kremlin talking points. I mean, there are some views, especially in regard with Ukraine, especially in regard with the. We'll have to go back a little in 2014. The events happened there, second Maidan, when the pro-Russian, so-called pro-Russian leader Viktor Yanukovych was ousted finally and fled in Russia. There is a certain name for this event in Ukraine. It's called the Revolution of Dignity, and there was not one but two presidential election after that, and two different people opposed to each other won. So Ukrainians first think this is a revolution of dignity, not a coup. Second, even if it was not maybe a legitimate way to change power, since that there was two presidential elections. First, Poroshenko won, was the first president after Yanukovych. Then his opponent Zelensky won. So this event was twice legalized, you can say, by will of the people, by open election, by competitive election. It wasn't like some party that won this Maidan won, then they continue to be in power like you would expect if it was a coup, and then some kind of tyrannical regime after that. So when you hear the events of 2014 that Ukrainians call Revolution of Dignity, and regime with two pre-elections that happened after that, and unpredictable elections in terms of result, where power changed twice, called a coup, and called illegitimate regime that was established in this coup, and like its continuous thing, you can count on that's a Kremlin talking point. That's a talking point. That's a perspective that only on whole earth coming from one place. It's Kremlin. It's only from the Kremlin you can see this way, not anywhere else. And it doesn't matter if it's American journalist, European journalist, I don't know, Taiwanese journalist, African journalist, calling the events of 2014 a coup and saying that current regime is illegitimate because it was a result of a coup, ignoring the fact of two presidential elections since then, when power changed twice. You can safely say that they are parting Kremlin talking points, wittingly or unwittingly. So when I first heard, I don't want to be too much distracted, but I want to call later a certain names that when I first heard part of the talking points, I was like, okay, this guy must be listening Russia Today too much. Later, I learned that he's actually speaking for Russia Today. So
who is that? If you don't mind, you could name drop. Who specifically did you say?
Well, I know Aaron Mate. I mean, the first person that I was introduced like that, I was watching The Hill Rising. It was like 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago. I didn't know most of those people. I'm still watching Breaking Points. I'm still watching The Hill. And there was a journalist. I remember his name, because like 2 years ago, to hear an American journalist, an American show on YouTube, calling this a coup. He like mentioned 2014 revolution. It was a completely different topic. He's just like mentioned it and called it a coup. And I was like, wait, that's the only perspective that you hear from Kremlin or Kremlin adjusted, Kremlin aligned people. So I don't know later. I mean, I don't know why he believes it, but maybe he believes it, maybe he's not. But I know where he learned it because this is a Kremlin talking point. This is a perspective that only you can see from Kremlin. So maybe he believes, maybe he's not. That's definitely a perspective that Putin aligned. It's not even broader Russian aligned perspective because there are a lot of people who will very passionately and very kind to events of the Ukrainian Revolution 2014. I was literally watching it online as it transpired since the late 2013, when it was first Euro Maidan against Yanukovych, when he decided to roll down negotiations with Europe about integration with Europe. So it was first student protest, then it was police brutality that escalated things to final end when in February 2014, Yanukovych fled first the capital, then the country. And it was a very dramatic event. It caused very much divided reaction in Russia, but it wasn't like whole Russia thinks that it was a coup, and it wasn't like whole Russia thinks that Ukrainian government since then illegitimate. I mean, you can say that first government that was after this revolution, or even if you call it a coup, was revolution government, but it was two elections, and only power that called it continuously a coup and build the whole idea of illegitimacy of current Ukrainian leadership on the fact that it was a coup, completely ignoring two presidential elections. It was Kremlin. So when I hear, I mean, I was kind of shocked. I mean, so that you call the so-called anti-imperialist left. I mean, you don't have to be called left anti-imperialist. If you are socialist, you are by definition anti-imperialist. But this so-called anti-imperialist left, that was a shocking representation for me for the first time. I just heard it. I mean, the Rising on the Hill was a kind of obscure show when it happened. It's like it was only beginning. I didn't know any of these people. So when I heard, but since I live like few kilometers, well, not few kilometers, like few tens kilometers from the Kremlin, and I hear constantly what Russian propaganda, Kremlin propaganda is talking. When I heard it from YouTube, from America, I was kind of shocked. And later, mostly in the last year, I was presented with I actually was kind of surprised how far-reaching is Russian propaganda, because Russia today in Russia is kind of a laughing stock. They take a lot of money from Russian budget. It's like billions of rubles. It's even in dollars. It's like few $1 billion budget a year. It's
Wow.
like 200 billion rubles in a year. So it's like $2.5 billion budget. They produce very low quality video. They buy bots. They buy likes. They buy views. There is a number of very popular investigations made by Navalny team about the corruption, basically. So I used to think about them as a joke, watching and listening how many Europeans and mostly Americans in certain online spaces can part in their propaganda. Well, I was surprised, to say the least.
Now,
but I have to say, to just contextualize it, it works both way, and in orders of magnitude bigger, it works another way. I mean, you would be surprised how many talking points on Russian state TV, in online discussions, in almost every political topics, in comment sections, in articles, even on state TV, is part in American conservative propaganda. So basically, it's like a circle, and you can say, and that's the benefits of the Russian perspective. You can say that basically whole Putin's ideology for the last 20 years is constructed from the talking points from the American conservative right, and that's. And if it's surprising how many American in online spaces can spew Russian Kremlin propaganda, backwards it's in order of magnitudes of bigger process. It going for decades. I mean, you can write a book about it. You can write many books about it, because, for example, one big example, I just want to contextualize it historically a bit.
No, please go ahead. Right.
Think about family values. You heard it constantly in America. It never was a big thing in Russia. Actually, in previous history, it's like a new invention. And if you listen Russian state TV, not even political one, you will believe that family values was like a thing for Russia for decades, for centuries. They even change representation of the Orthodox Christianity in Russia, like it's a religion of family values. They are promoting certain saints from the certain century, like Peter and Fevronia, like saints of the family values. This is kind of unheard of for the traditional Orthodox Christianity in Russia, because you can say that ethics of Orthodox Christianity, and I'm oversimplifying here, but it's more like Jedi Knights ethics. It's about being alone and serve. It's monks ethics. It's not family values ethics. It's completely the opposite, about being alone, serving a god, living in a skit, or completely divorced from the world, completely divorced from the reality. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's not like Russian monks are prohibited from marriage like Catholics, but there is certain ethics of Christian ethics of the would say loner monk, you can say. It reminds me a bit on Jedi ethics. So I think it's comparison you
No,
can understand.
I think this is it makes complete sense, and I did not know this, and it now, do you think this was to specifically woo the American right or the Christian right, or what do you think was the reasoning for that complete acceptance of, you know,
It's actually quite simple because Soviet period has ideology. It was a Soviet ideology. It was a mix of Marxism. It was a mix of Russian nationalism. So it was a bit of Leninism. It was a bit of Marxism. It was a bit of imperialism. So you have this mix, good side and bad side, left side and right side. And then it crashed. And there was a vacuum, ideological vacuum. And then you have a new power, new regime that felt at some point that they need some kind of ideological rationalization, explanation for why they're in power, why they should be continuously in power. So, and I think it's very important that it was a regime of Chekists, so special, how do you call it, like FBI, CIA, special forces, special services. We call it Chekists in Russia, former KGB. And if you deep into special services psychology, it's people who professionally don't believe in anything. It's people professionally ideologically empty. So they could be a vessel for any actions the government needs them to do. And when you have a regime in newly capitalist Russia, a regime headed by former KGB agent, who shouldn't have any ideology, but now he has to lead a great country. And he has some ideas he adopted in the 90s when he was around liberals, to be exact, neoliberals a lot. So he has his professional training from the Soviet Union, some neoliberal ideas, and his regime needed some ideology, and basically in empty heads. They have to be adopt. I mean, basically, you have usually when you have a politician, you have a people who fighting for power, fighting for elections. Sometimes, like literally fighting for power. They have some idea first, and then they come into the power to work with this idea, to implement this idea. It might be a good idea, it might be a bad idea, but they have first the idea that drives them. With Putin, you have a guy who gets into the power first, and then he's like, or his like entourage, like, okay, now you need to idea why you're in the power, why you need this power, what you're gonna do with that, and they compilate something they could. Of course, they couldn't use socialist idea because it's hard to use even that mutated version of socialism as Soviet dictatorship was. It's hard to use it to justify building secret palaces, accumulating billions of dollars, and living in style of Russian aristocracy of 19th century. I mean, they literally part in the style. They're building very poor, tasteful houses that look like a poor man view of the life of Russian aristocracy in 19th century. They're not trying to emulate anything else. So you have this mix, and apparently American conservative talking points was the best justification they can think of. So they basically copy-pasted it.
I actually have this is for a segment I have for later in the show, but it's amazing you just happened to bring this up because, you know, I compiled a number of clips over the past couple of years, going back, about 6 years, 7 years now, of Republican talking heads, right-wing pundits, U.S. right-wing pundits, all espousing pro-Putin, pro-Putin talking points. And there's a good number of the clips I compiled that specifically bring up how, they like him or they're big fans of him now because he's espousing these family values and he's a real Christian man. And how they and this and the fact that you came to me, like, for anyone who's listening to this now, this was not, I did not even tell him about this before he came on the air. It's 6 a.m. where you are right now, right? So he's just woken up. So we've not had a conversation about this.
Trust me, I was thinking about it for years. I mean, when I started to follow American politics in late 2015, 2016, I was like in a year or two, I was really much surprised to hear how similar it sounds to Russian politics in terms of talking points. And it was a bit later when I realized that it's other way around. That basically this complete ideological emptiness that was created by the fall of Soviet Union and Soviet ideology, it's just sucked into the first most compatible set of ideas, and it turned out to be American conservatism.
Right. So let's now discuss. Now that we have that amazing background, I learned a lot there, honestly. Let's talk about one of the things that I'm seeing. Like, let's talk about this. Why is Putin doing what he's doing right now in Ukraine? And a lot of what I've seen are. And obviously NATO did play a role in Putin's overall worldview for sure. But I'm seeing this direct. And again, this is not where I'm an expert. I stay out of this for the lead up to this because I don't know. But from what my understanding is, a lot of people say that it's NATO's expansion led by America into Eastern Europe, close to Russia, that has antagonized Putin to this point. Listen, I'm sure that plays a role, but also, I mean, Ukraine's been asking to join NATO for a decade and a half now, and NATO has turned them down. They have not been allowed to join NATO. So I mean, the idea that it's a little bit confusing to me that you see this side of things, you see that side of things. They don't correlate. They don't make sense. But maybe as someone living there with a better understanding, you could help this make sense to me. Why is Putin doing what he's doing right now in Ukraine?
So here, both things could be true. So my opinion on NATO, that it should be dismantled after USSR fall, and it never should be expanded. And they are desperately trying to justify their existence because it's basically it's money thing, it's power thing. They have a structure, they have budget, they have people that depended on this status and budgets. So they have all the reasons to prop it up and find the justification for them to continue to exist. First, it was a war on terror, and now Putin gives them this present of backing Russia's threat back. So yes, NATO shouldn't exist. NATO should have been dismantled long ago and should be dismantled eventually. And I think Europeans should be collectively protecting themselves independently. Maybe allied, but independently from USA. Still, and that's completely true, but it still has also true would be that current situation has little to nothing to do with the actual existence of NATO. And you need to contextualize it and put it a bit psychological turn on it, because on a broader perspective, philosophically, I don't believe in a big role of a personality in history. I see it as through historical materialism lenses as basically clashes of big masses of people and global processes. So I see this as going through, I forgot the word, like stages, as Marx calls stages of history.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else is going down there from these big processes. So, and if something happens, that I believe it, I'm certain that happens because it could happen the other way. And even if some people have wield ungodly amount of personal power in some processes, they didn't acquire this power on their own. It's the situation allowed them have this power. So I don't believe in that history driven by people, it's people driven by history, but in certain situations, circumstances as such, the people with their weak and strong sides can have a lot of power just because situation allows them to. So, and it's certainly Putin's situations. It was, I mean, it was a Hitler situation. I'm not comparing them directly, but that's the most obvious example of the whole country gone insane after one man. It's not like he has magical power to convince the whole country gone insane. It was a situation that he was put in the position historically when the whole country had to follow him into the madness until it was so become some incompatible with the reality that circumstances again changed. This whole world was closed down. So we have the same thing in Russia. Putin, a ideological person. I don't believe he had any ideology prior to becoming the president. He wasn't a politician really, so he wasn't. I mean, he certainly was looking for some career, for some security in life, for some money, and so on. But his politics wasn't driven by any idea, good or bad. It's not like he had terrible idea. That's why I'm not comparing him with the actual Nazis, who was idea driven. It was terrible idea, but it was idea driven. He just happened. The historical circumstances was as such that he happened to become a president of Russia, and then he acquired this basically unlimited power because it was convenient. Firstly, basically, he was installed by oligarch regime.
Mm-hmm.
So it started in the 90s. So first they created basically oligarchy regime to combat threat of communist winning back elections in 96 when there was a communist candidate against current President Yeltsin. So they intentionally created class of big capitalists to combat this threat. Then big capitalists became oligarchs. They needed someone to be figurehead of the presidency. They chose the most empty figure they can think of. That was a figure of Putin. Putin, in order to manage contradiction between oligarchs, Putin acquired a lot of power and secured this power in his hands. And now we have the situation when basically the whole regime has to follow him, because if Putin falls, there is no mechanisms to change him for another leader who will also be oligarch friendly and secure them continuing having their property. Because if Putin falls, there will contradictions inside the oligarchy. Putin's elites will be so strong that will rip the circle off, and at least some of them will lose their properties, their freedoms, their lives. So none of them free to move, because they understand if Putin now goes, third of them, half of them, all of them lose their power, their property. So in order to keep their property, they have to keep Putin. And it gives Putin a unique position to basically do whatever he wants with his power, because he is irreplaceable for the Russian elite, current Russian elite. And there where psychological element plays, starting to play a great role. And my two main points that I want to bring home about this current war, that first of all, this is not a Soviet Union restoration. This is dangerous and wrong misreading of the situation. This is Russian Empire restoration. And Putin says so directly, because what he was saying last year when he wrote an article about Russian-Ukrainian history, when he completely, he basically fabricated how he in his head sees the whole ordeal, and basically he denied a nation of Ukraine existence. He dehumanized the whole nation, saying that it's not a real nation, despite they have their own language, their own culture, their own history. It's not a real nation. It's like part of Russia. And basically, he denied them their nationhood. And later, in the recent days, last week, and when he announced the invasion, he was basically putting a lot of blame for the why Ukraine actually exists, when he thinks that it shouldn't exist at all, on the Bolsheviks, on the Lenin, on the Khrushchev, on the communists, and he truly hates socialism. He parroting these neoliberal talking points about, well, socialism is a good idea, but it never worked, and so on. But he hates socialism with passion. Right. And when he is being quoted about fall of the Soviet Union as the biggest geopolitical catastrophe of this 20th century, I mean, many people hear this as like, oh, he's missing Soviet Union. No, he's missing imperial part of Soviet Union. He's not missing ideological part of the Soviet Union. And imperial part of the Soviet Union, it was that part of basically continuation of the Russian Empire. If you divorce Soviet Union from their ideological part, from their help to other countries, their anti-imperialist struggle, if like things like eradication of diseases, things like developing science, things like developing, basically in Soviet Union, people in Russia was provided with full, first in their history, with full education. It first time in Russia, people became fully literate, with housing, which was always criticized. It's like not good, poor houses, small apartments, but no other regime would think to spend a great amount of resources or decades, provide everyone with the housing as good as economics allows, but still it was a focus. So this was all ideological things when literate people, educated people, science, housing, healthcare, it was all ideological parts. Government really spent their effort, time, energy on this. This seems to Putin and capitalist regime obsolete. But they really, really like the imperial part, the expansion that happened. I mean, Russia was for centuries struggling to expand, but the expansion that happened in the second part of the century, 20th century, when it was joined in basically countries from the whole world, in anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist struggle. That seems more attractive to them, and they try to emulate it without understanding that it was all ideologically driven, that it was behind some idea driven by the struggle against the values they are now currently adopted, values of maximization of profits and exploitation of peoples and natural resources.
Right.
So
That's
if you do,
the interesting thing there too is and I'm glad you brought that up, is like, this isn't a situation where the U.S. is antagonizing some sort of small, fragile country in Central America or South America by supporting a coup, and obviously that's we stand up against that. This is Russia, another imperialist country, like you just explained, who is a superpower and is seeking to expand itself. This isn't a situation. This is why it sort of always baffles me when, again, when it's like, when the U.S. is supporting some sort of coup in, Honduras or Bolivia. It's clear what's going on and who people should stand with. That's why you could take a clear side and say this is wrong what the U.S. is doing to the Bolivia or wherever. In this situation, like, this seems to be, at the very least, two imperialist superpowers butting heads, and the people who are paying here are the innocent people living in Ukraine.
well, here where psychological part going in, because I was explaining that Putin likes the imperial part of Soviet history. Basically, he continues. Basically, he likes the imperial part, Russian imperial part. So, because if you divorce Soviet Union from the ideology, you just have a continuation of Russian Empire, but the other name. And he says it's directly. It's not like I'm guessing, because he says it's directly. He criticizes Soviet politics and the fact that Soviet Union, not de facto but de jure, was a confederation of independent republics. He hates it, as many conservatives and imperialists do in Russia. And one of his philosophical influencers is a very obscure Russian philosopher. His name is Ilyin, I believe. And Berdyaev, those people from the 19th century, they are not very famous. They're not very famous, even in Russia. But if you Google Russian philosopher Ilyin and Berdyaev, especially Ilyin, you would find them often characterized as fascist philosophers. So they was basically Russian supremacy philosophers. It was very popular in the 19th century because it was a century when nation states all around Europe first arises. Germany, France basically was nationalized, Italy and Russia was struggling to find their national identity, to born from the imperial identity. So he follows directly Russian nationalist, proto-fascistical and fascist sympathetical philosophy. It's not by any stretch of imagination is communist or socialist. It's completely imperialist conservative right. It's ideology from the 19th century, and he says it very directly. And if you know who he's quoting, and he often quotes Ilyin. I never heard of this guy Ilyin before Putin started to quote him. He loves him very much, so I can see how this kind of ideology can be attractive to weak minds and people who have no prior education or ideological convictions. So he basically bought into the simplest one, which being nationalist one. And it's been noticed. It's not being noticed in America because the continuation of narrative that it's Soviet Union restoration is very convenient, as well as for the tankies, so-called tankies. I like this term, and it's also convenient for the American liberal and conservative establishment because it allows them to continue their business as usual. They Cold War system to put it in place, keep it in place, like NATO, like they I don't know, military contracts, when they call Russia biggest military threat on par with China, it's ridiculous, actually. I mean, Russian military is not what Soviet military was even close. So, but you see that they interested to continue this. Basically, it's grift at this point. After Soviet fall, it's all a grift. So they interested in ignoring the conservative, imperialist, tsarist, fascist notes in Putin's rhetoric and see only Soviet part, but when it's other way around. But it's not like it goes unnoticed. Europeans, Ursula von der Leyen, it's a European leader. I believe there is a leader of Euro Commission or Euro Parliament, probably Euro Commission. So one of the top executives of the European Union, she says, I listened to her yesterday when she was saying about this invasion. She says that Putin trying to turn clock back to Russian Empire. So Europeans see it more clearly than Americans. And even American people from the online spaces like Sagar and Jetty, I don't agree, as you might expect, with his takes mostly because he's a conservative right, but he was doing this monologue on the breaking points yesterday, and historical one, and he says he listens to the Putin, his last two speeches, and he sees and hears clearly that he's not trying to restore Soviet Union. It's worse, he's trying to restore a Russian Empire. And I was like, yes, exactly the point. That's important thing to understand. That person with very poor education, with a very little ideological background, put into position of unchecked power at the top of the nuclear superpower, cling to the first ideology he could see as attractive, and it turned out to be ultra-nationalist, Russian nationalist ideology. It's important to understand it, to understand his motivations and where he's going to go with that, because yes, it's his own ideas, but because of the whole historical context, he owned with his own ideas, basically take hostage the whole system, the whole country, with the military, with the nuclear power, and now he taking hostage second country, and in some sense the whole world, because he believes in it, and historical circumstances allowed the person who believes in this bullshit to be unchecked leader of the nuclear power. So that's an important thing to understand, and that's also important for the socialists to understand this distinction, because it's also a way to basically throw shade on socialism. You see, that's socialism. That's what's going on in Ukraine right now, invasion, threat of nuclear war. That's socialism. That's not socialism. They're using to justify the old talking points about socialism being imperialist, but imperialism of the Soviet Union is back, not a feature of socialism. And this is important. But this is an important distinction to understand logic of Putin and what he's trying to do. And that's the second point I was exploring in my Twitter threads, and I wanted to talk about. I believe that this invasion in Ukraine is basically his personal petty project. I mean, he was trying to control Ukraine. If you think of him, seeing himself as a continuation of Russian emperor's line, not Gensech's line, but emperor's line, expansion, pan-Slavic expansion, trying to bring home Ukraine, Belarus, then Poland, all the Slavic universe. It was a major project for Russian Tsars for centuries. And if he sees himself as a continuation of this trend, he's trying to do the same. And in respect of Ukraine, in particular, he's trying to control Ukraine through puppet government since 2004. So in 2004 was the election when his preferred leader Viktor Yanukovych should won, and he did win, but it was a rigged election. It caused first Maidan, so-called Orange Revolution. Yanukovych, there was re-election, and his opponent Yushchenko, not a nice guy, neoliberal and all this stuff. So it was actually not a good choice for Ukrainian people, but still, Yushchenko won. Putin gets slapped in the face. Then, years later, Yushchenko stopped being president. Yanukovych finally win the election. So Yanukovych was won, but then re-election, and he lost because of Orange Revolution in 2004. Later, he becomes a president, wins the election, but then his second Maidan happens, and he's been ousted second time.
This is in 2014 now, right?
It's 2014, exactly, 10 years later. So another slap in the face. So Putin was trying to control Ukraine through means of soft power, through puppet leadership for 20 years now, almost. And it seems to me that at some point he just grew tired of it. He understood that no elections, no matter how rigged they are, won't help him to install pro-Putin's government, because even if he succeeded in that, like it was 10 years ago, then another Maidan happens and already installed government will be ousted. So it seems to me that his whole idea is to install directly by force. And this is important to understand his strategy and the results of the first day of invasion show to me that this is exactly what's going on. He said it directly, and I don't think he was lying about it, that he's not interested in occupying Ukraine. He trying to do, as I see it, go in and go out operation. When he goes in, he ousts current Ukrainian leadership. It seems to me he developed a big deal of hatred to current President Vladimir Zelensky. Mm-hmm. He installs a new leadership, and there is some names floating already. It's not important what names, because it's not people who have a big natural constituency in Ukraine, but there are names. And then go out, and he gets what he wanted from the first place 20 years ago. And unfortunately, another poor country in being hostage to the regime in Belarus this time, helping him, because Kiev is relatively far from the Russian border, but it's really close to Belarusian border. And there is a distinct invasion going on, and they're very close to Kiev. So they are not interested in broader Ukraine. They are not interested in occupation. It's impossible to hold it. It's really, as Putin calls it, special operation by installing the pro-Putin's government that he always wanted for 20 years. So he just lost his patience. So that's important to understand. So not to be confused that like Putin wants to literally occupy whole Ukraine and then occupy another country. He doesn't have this kind of territorial ambitions like, Nazis had, who wanted living space for their nation and so on. It seems to me he literally wants to install the government. And this is, I see, as a continuation his project. So it's his third attempt to install Ukrainian government that he wants, that will be controlled by him. And the map of the war suggests that it's true. So you have activities on the south when he need to secure water for the Crimea. You have IT activities on the east when he expands Donetsk and Lugansk regions, and you have distinct activities on the north, where Russian forces already closing in on Kiev. Probably he hopes, he believed that Ukrainian president just ran, as Yanukovych ran 8 years ago, and Ukrainian people will be happy to install another president. So, and then he just exits. Well, probably he expands some kind of military presence of Russia in forms of bases and so on. But it's not like occupying force. It's like a light force will be for the new government. So, and he's going to take Kiev or threaten to take Kiev, and that's exactly what's going on. We started to talk 1 hour ago. It was exactly 24 hours after Putin announced his special operation on Russian TV, and for 24 hours he secured at least halfway through the Kiev from the Belarusian border. It's really close from there, from the north. And I heard that American intelligence says that he intended to take Kiev in 96 hours. And this kind of intelligence I tend to believe, because it seems like it's exactly what he's trying to do. So we are in for battle for Kiev, I'm afraid.
Right.
And that's a regime change war, basically. That's it. So basically, the closest analogy would be Iraq. So he thinks that he just invades, ousts horrific dictator. As he sees Zelensky's regime, people will be happy. Then democracy happens in Putin's understanding of democracy, and Ukraine will happily go on their own, but their own way will be always aligned with Russian way. Like Bush administration thought that Iraq will happily go on their own, but for some reason they will choose exactly the American way of doing politics and economics. Well, it didn't work out for US in Iraq. It won't work out for Russia in Ukraine. So
that's a great way to put it. That's really that's a good analogy there. So what do you think? Not what do you think? Where you are right now in Moscow. What's the feeling there? Because it does seem like, from what mass protests have hit the streets in Russia, anti-war protests. Is that the overwhelming feeling over there, that the people of Russia are not backing Putin on this? And also, was Putin expecting that? Like, was he expecting that the Russian people would be for his war in Ukraine? Do you think the reaction has been surprising to him? Break that down for me.
Listen, it's actually quite hard to break down, because if I'll try to talk for the whole Russian nation, or even people of Moscow, there is danger that I will be putting my biases and projecting a lot, because the latest sociology I heard about that Russian society is divided like 45-45 on the whole problem of not even invasion of Ukraine, but accepting rebellious regions, Donetsk and Lugansk, as independent republics. We don't have sociology on the war with Ukraine, obviously, because it just happened. It was surprise for everyone. So the overwhelming feeling, as I can sense it, was state of shock, state of acceptance, state of adjusting to new reality. that's still going on for majority of people, because you have to commend it for Putin being a special service agent. He did it like a special op, and he did it successfully in the sense that people were completely surprised. And even that all the signs were in, and many people predicted it back in January, back in December. There is a great deal of denial. I was in denial of it until like 6 hours into invasion. So I was like, I didn't believe that it's going on when it's already begun. So it's so here's the facts that it's going on to be a certain way, but here's the now that we can know it, but we can't believe it until it happens. So Putin took whole world by surprise, not because we couldn't guess it, but because we didn't want to believe it, and some people still don't. So that's, I think, the main sentiment. People are adjusted. And protests certainly were, and they were throughout the whole Russia. Started in Siberia because it's a big country, so it's like was evening in Siberia, so or evening of the day of invasion in Siberia. So people after work started going on streets. Then it come into European part of Russia, but it wasn't. And that's where perspective matters, optics matters. It wasn't overwhelming protests. It was fairly marginal protests in terms of complete numbers. It was like thousands of people who represents probably percents, like 5-10% of the population. Majority of population is adjusted. Majority of population is learned to be apolitical. Learn to be to keep the noses away from politics. Don't think about it, and I think they will get involved in the whole situation a bit later, inevitably, but later, when the economical results of the Putin decisions will start to kick in.
Right.
And not because of the war, but because of the falling of the ruble. New level of inflation and new level of I mean, poverty was risen in Russia 8 years straight after 2014, and there is a big bump was because of COVID and COVID related economic crash. And now we are but at least we were with the whole world on that. Now we are going in our separate economic crash, not COVID related, but simply politically induced by Putin's policies. And I don't believe people en masse understand what happened. And most of at least half of the people don't want war. Maybe majority of the people don't want war. But what make them to awake to this and to protest will be not the fact of the war, but the actual economical results of this, the actual crisis that the war brings to us. And I see it similarly to another war that's supposed to be fast and glorious for Russia. It's Russia-Japan war of 1904, when it started like Imperial project of quick establishment of Russian imperial power on Far East, when colonization imperium of the West trying to divide China, and it should supposed to be a quick and glorious war against Imperial Japan to establish dominance on northern China. It turned out to be a very painful defeat that in turn sparked the first Russian Revolution. Failed, but still a revolution when the Russian get the first parliament. So Tsar Nicholas II had to concede some demands. There was for Russian parliament, first Duma, and in 12 years later, it ended up in already a successful Russian Revolution and end of Tsarism. So I think we might have something like that going on our hands now, because I mean, people was quoting this phrase like quick victorious war. It's kind of a meme of Russian history, but it's a negative meme. When people saying quick victorious war, it means that something that's supposed to be great and easy and profitable, but turns out to be a horrible disaster. So that's the meaning of the meme. But it seems to me that people forgot the second part, and now they believe that they can do quick victorious war, and completely forgetting that the second part is going on after that. That the meme has a continuation. It reminds me of what's going on in US right now in terms of roaring 20s. Like, oh, we now in roaring 20s. And I'm like, okay, do you remember how it ended last time and why people distinctly remember roaring 20s? They remember it because 1929 crash and Great Depression and following Second World War. But people, I mean, it sounds like people, it's kind of self-parody themselves when they're talking about roaring 20s. It sounds like the part self-parody when they're talking about quick victorious war. But that seems to me that we're into right now. That they think that this will be like that.
Right. Egor, this was extremely, educational for me. This was. Thank you so much for taking the time. Again, it's what time is it over there now? 7 a.m. over there.
7 a.m.
Yeah,
Yes.
you've been up since before 6 just to do this. I really appreciate you taking the time. Is there anything really quick? Because I want to let you go, so you could, maybe get some more sleep or go to work, whatever you got to do.
Both.
Both, right? Is there anything you want to leave us with for us that you maybe didn't hit, or anything you want to stress? Just in just to make sure we get anything that we might have not got to in our conversation.
At this point, I just want to provide people with my perspective just to better understand what's going on. I don't feel like advising anything to do, any actions, and so on. I just wanted to hammer some two main points down. That first of all, this is not a restoring Soviet Union project. That's worse. That restoring Russian Empire project and should be taken accordingly. And the second, that intent of Putin. I'm not saying that it will be an actual result. I think this is gonna be his biggest misfire in his career, and his career full of misfires. Actually, I mean, Russian propaganda and conservative propaganda makes him like he's a real genius who always get what he wants. But if we would go in deep in 20 years of Putin's rule, it's failure after failure. It's continuous set of failures it just represent the power of resilience of Russian system and Russian economics, Russian people, that we can take it this kind of damage for 20 years, but it's going to end, I believe. So I mean, we can take failures because Russia is a resilient country, and so we can take this all damage Putin causes and Putin's regime causes to Russia, and still find some resource to believe that he's winning all the time, despite that he's losing all the time. But this might be the last straw, but despite the fact that I believe that it's not going to go as he's planned. I believe it's important to understand his plan, and his plan, I believe, a regime change war, not an occupation, not a forever expansion from Ukraine and forever. His plan, I believe, to go in and to go out. I mean, and then, of course, have some military presence, but a light presence like bases and so on. Go in, take Kiev. Probably he believes that Zelensky will be as cowardly as Yanukovych was and just flee the country, and it will be easy work for him. And I mean, I'm pretty sure he didn't really expect much of the victims of this invasion because he said it himself in his articles, in his speeches, that Ukraine is not a real country. So he thinks that if he pokes it with the finger, military finger, it falls away, and Zelensky flees, and people like, okay, we're not a real country, so give us the leader you see fit to lead us, and we're okay with that. That I think how he really sees it. So he really sees it as a special military operation, go in, go out, install a leadership, and now Ukraine take it all right. So, and it's important to understand his logic behind it, to plan reaction to it accordingly, not to see it like a start of full-scale invasion, occupation, world war domination scheme. That's his plan, I believe, and everything I see shows me to be exact that my reading is correct. Even
Right.
the warm up of the first 24 hours.
Right. Oh, one
But
more
if it's
go ahead.
important to understand, still it's not going to go as planned because at the end of the day, he's not very educated. He's not very bright man. Who's very much over his head in this whole ordeal with presidency, and we are sadly with him.
Right. Well, actually, I thought of one more thing before you go, if you have a second. What was your reaction when you heard him say that one of the reasons he's going in, Russia's going into Ukraine, was to denazify the country? I mean, knowing him and his background, and obviously it's not like Russia is some anti Nazi, white supremacist wonderland. Obviously there are Nazi factions in Ukraine, like there are Nazi factions in many other countries. Like, for example, here in the U.S., we have a Nazi problem.
There is a thing like cognitive dissonance. I believe he learned from his Soviet upbringing that Nazism is bad, but he learned that the label of Nazism is bad. But he also poorly educated man so he might not understand what this label, what fascism as a label is actually means. So he sees obviously on display Nazist political forces. It's marginal forces, but there are Nazi political forces in Ukraine. He sees it and he says, okay, Nazism is bad. But in the same way, he might be completely lacking that his own ideology, that people who he thinks he's ideological gurus like Yin are also pro-fascist thinkers, he might be completely lacking substance on that. So he's against Nazism as a label, completely missing the point that he's doing fascism himself. And when he said that he's going to demilitarize and denazificate Ukraine, I took it as an evidence of, it was one of my clues to what exactly he's wanted to do, because how do you not denazificate, focus on demilitarized country? How do you demilitarize country? Its only way, it's to defeat it militarily, change the regime, and install the demilitarized regime. Collaborative regime. So basically, when he's saying, I want to denazificate country, if you think through it technically, what it implies the regime change and moving of Russian troops over Ukraine. This small pinch of Russian invasion over the Belarus border implied that he is going to do exactly that in order to demilitarize, which I believe actual goal, and denazificate, whatever he means by that, Ukraine. He needs how do you do that? You need to change the regime. You need to change the people leadership, and that's his want to do. I mean, it's a small window into the whole world of cognitive dissonance in his head, but it's also a clue on what he's actually trying to do. Literally. So the end game of in his mind is to change regime in Kiev. And it's important to understand for the whole world to act accordingly. And it's also important to understand that he has no idea. I mean, think of that. He already tried it twice. He tried it in 2004 through elections. He failed in 2014 through the second Maidan. Now he's trying third time, but with full-scale invasion, and somehow he thinks that this way, this time it's going to go much better, and he's going to get what he wants. Now his army is gonna work all right. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's also very dangerous.
Right. This was great. Thank you so much, Egor Kotkin. He is a socialist writer.
May I say it's in Russian? So how it actually sounds? My name, Yegor Kotkin.
Egor Kotkin.
Better this time.
Thank you. Yes, I need to hear it from you first, and then it comes into my brain.
You actually have a famous historian of my last name, Stephen Kotkin. He writes about Stalin, funny enough. So it's not a completely unfamiliar last name for you.
Right. The last name I think I got right. The first name I needed a little correction.
It's fine.
Socialist writer, born in USSR, living in Moscow, Russia, where you are coming to us live, and you were awesome enough to wake up, rise and shine early in the morning, and give us this.
Yeah, it's dawn in Russia right now. It's finally getting light behind the window. Yes.
Thank you again so much for taking the time, and
thank you for letting me in, because I was really excited to be able to provide this perspective, because I think it's really important.
I thought so too, which is why I needed to have you on. Where can people find you online so they can follow your work?
Well, Twitter probably. It's Twitter, Egor Kotkin, Egor Kotkin, my handle, and probably there. I don't have much of English language online presence for now, but I plan to expand it actually. So from there will be new links later and so on. But right now in English, I'm on Twitter.
Great. Thank you so much again. Have a great, I almost said night. Have a wonderful morning.
Thank you. It is a good morning actually.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, folks. I was reading, he reached out to me. I was reading his threads and I was like, this is the perspective that people, should hear. We're listening basically to, at least here in the US, our takes are basically from, people here who, honestly, I don't think they really understand the situation, and I don't either. I remember I was actually looking, I just searched through my Twitter history to see, and I found tweets from 2014 that were sent by me and Michael Brooks when we were hosting together on the Majority Report, searching out voices with expertise. When the Euro Maidan was happening, and I know I just messed up how it said, but bear with me, because this isn't my area of knowledge. This is, quite frankly, from what I've seen, the vast majority of people in the U.S. have no fucking clue. And so in the lead up to this, the past few weeks, I didn't say a thing because I was just reading and trying to learn and understand and get full knowledge of what was going on. They're just, you don't have to have an opinion on everything. Not to say you can't share it. I also don't think you need to have like a PhD or have some sort of expert, have some sort of like long, resume to share your thoughts and opinions. But if you're going to come across as someone who knows what's going on and is an expert, I think you should really know what's going on. And so I don't. And so, I mean, I could have looked for someone in Ukraine, I guess, but I felt like that was, I think they have more pressing things. I'm sure there's journalists who are in there that would have talked to me, but they're probably talking to outlets that can give them bigger attention, honestly. I mean, and on top of that, they're in a very dangerous situation. But also, I think hearing from a socialist, knowledgeable person who's been writing on this issue, someone born and raised in Russia. I mean, he was born in the USSR, currently in Moscow. To hear him explain this, I think a lot of people who go out there and talk about how, this is all and only the fault of the USS Imperial, like he said, both things can be true. You don't have to defend one to criticize the other. And he also said that while NATO should be disbanded and NATO expansion was a problem, in terms of what's literally going on right now, little to no, he said, on the issue, on Putin's decision. I was going to go to the second half. I honestly, I feel like I'm going to go on a whole rant here that people probably saw me in the Majority Report earlier today. I'm on Thursdays with the MR crew, the great Emma and Brandon, and of course Matt Leck and Bradley. And, I went off. And I don't have a problem with anyone. And there's nothing personal. Like, that was something that okay, so people don't understand. Last night, when this happened, I was upset that there were a number of people, mainly on the right, and like I mentioned earlier in the interview, the anti-imperialist left, basically like the Jimmy Dores, the Gray Zones, and all their lackeys, the Convo Couches, the Jackson Hinkles, and of course the right, the usual suspects, Tucker Carlson, of course Trump, Tucker Carlson, various other figures on the right, Candace Owens, Mike Cernovich, the ones who think Putin is cool on the right. They've been for weeks saying Putin's not going to invade Ukraine. And listen, I think it's important to be skeptical about what the U.S. government is saying. I mean, we know they've lied. And I thought Emma put it really well earlier in the show. It was sort of a boy who cried wolf situation. When you have weapons of mass destruction, after weapons of mass destruction, people are not going to believe you when you're actually giving them the goods, like they were this time around with Putin's intent in Ukraine. But part of being a skeptic is also not claiming that one source, that the skepticism, whether it be the source giving you that skepticism or your own skepticism, is 100% correct. And I do take this from a very, I like a lot of you probably know, I do have a journalistic background. I mean, I work as a reporter. I'm not just a YouTube live streamer or Twitch streamer. I mean, if you're dealing with conspiracy theories and disinformation like I do on my beat, you really do have to take this type of shit very, very seriously in what you're reporting. And reporters make mistakes. And good journalists correct themselves. And I want to make it clear because I don't want any misunderstanding of who I'm calling out here. You know, Emma of the Majority Report obviously issued correction and admitted she was wrong. And that's what a great reporter, what a great journalist does. Yesterday, in searching for the right-wingers and those anti-imperialist leftists takes who claimed that Russia was definitely, Putin was definitely not going to invade Ukraine, I came across a tweet from Hassan that I didn't consider part of those same tweets. I mean, he was wrong, but it wasn't like the same type of take. But it was wrong, and I thought, he said something. I think he said, like, Putin is bad, but he's not mad. So I thought it was funny. And so I retweeted it. I quote tweeted it, and I basically said, turns out Putin is mad also. And people thought I was attacking Hassan. And I could see how that was construed that way now. I didn't screenshot his tweet like I was screenshotting the others. But I could see how that was misconstrued or construed. And also, it was pointed out that he did retract that tweet a couple days later and admit he was wrong, which is also, again, signs of someone who's doing the good work, a good job. That's what you're supposed to do. And he did it. But there's this bizarre defense of critiques on independent media, and that includes me, my friends and colleagues of the Majority Report, Hassan, who I've never had any previous, I believe he knows who he is. I know who he is. I believe he knows who I am, I should say, and I know who he is. We have, obviously, acquaintances and friends that cross paths, but I've never directly interacted with him before. But you have to be able to critique when people are wrong, even if they're your faves. Like, if you're watching me right now and I was wrong and I didn't correct it and do the work to make it right, you should fucking rake me over the coals for it. You should absolutely critique me just like you would any other media organization. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. Like, the idea that we're just a bunch of YouTube streamers or Twitch streamers and that why are you ragging on someone who... It's absurd. It's absurd. You want independent media to be taken seriously, correct? Then it needs to be held up to journalistic standards if you're doing news. It's just that simple. If you would attack CNN or MSNBC for bad journalism, but you wouldn't critique, I should say, shows that you watch on YouTube or Twitch or anywhere else, Rumble, then, you're just basically admitting that you don't hold them to the same standards, which then defeats the whole purpose of independent media, right? We're supposed to be bringing you news that the mainstream corporate media wouldn't touch, right? But if you can't trust us to bring that to you correctly, then what's the fucking point? What's the point? Watch a video game streamer. Why are you wasting your time watching false bullshit on someone who fancies themselves a news reporter, but when they're taken seriously, when someone takes them seriously, they all of a sudden fall back onto, or their fans defend them by saying, "Oh, I'm just a Twitch streamer. I'm not. Why you supposed to take me seriously? I'm just joking. I'm just a comedian. This is shit Joe Rogan pulls." It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. And critiquing someone on your side, to me, who you share ideologies with and who you think is right, like 90%, 95%, 99% of the time, critiquing someone is the highest form of showing that you care about them and you follow them and think they do good work. And you respect them as a source or for your news. Because why wouldn't you want to be critiqued? Why wouldn't you want good faith criticism, constructive criticism? You learn from it. So when I critique someone, quote unquote, on my side, I'm not attacking them. Someone said I have an axe to grind, or a few people said I was clout chasing or something. I mean, listen, I can assure you, my 35-year-old ass with 2 kids, who's got honestly 5 different jobs to provide for my family, I don't fucking care about social media numbers. Trust me. When I'm not streaming or working or whatever, I'm spending time with my kids. We just played Luigi's Mansion. We were just playing Luigi's Mansion co-op earlier, me and my 6-year-old. I'd much rather be doing that than gaining 1,000 subscribers from owning someone on Twitter. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just, it's the reaction from some people is baffling to me. And on this issue, I think there are a lot of people who have not corrected, like the people I just mentioned. And are still, even like Egor said, are still towing the Kremlin line and lying about what's going on. And I mean, when they're doing that, they're not wrong, by the way. Like Emma and Hassan just had a bad take due to the information that was currently available to them. Like when you're doing what these guys I'm talking about are doing, they're not looking to issue a correction. They're doing it very purposefully. You should want the independent media you consume to be held up to the highest standard. Because if not, what's the point? What's the point? I should shut the stream off right now. If everything I just said to you was a lie, why are you watching? Do I agree with everything Vosh or Hassan or even Sam says? Do I agree with everything Emma or Brandon or even Michael Brooks said? Listen, me and Michael actually butted heads a few times. I mean, we were honestly, Michael and I are probably probably had the closest. I mean, you could tell probably from when we hosted together, we probably had the closest sort of. There was magic there, if I can say so. His strengths were my weaknesses, and his few weaknesses were my strengths. And but still, when I was covering right-wing reactionary stuff, internet reactionary stuff on the Majority Report in those early 2010s, he didn't get it, and he thought it was, he supported me doing it, but he thought it was kind of like funny and not serious. And then later on, he came out, and honestly, it will always go down as probably like a highlight of like my personal work. Him coming to me and saying like, "You were on top of this, and everyone else, including myself, didn't get it." And that meant a lot to me. And I know when not to talk, man. Like, I know when not to talk. And I wasn't going to come at you guys and give you whatever my take was on Russia and Ukraine. You should be skeptic of what the U.S. government's telling you. You should also listen to what they're saying, listen to what other experts are saying. Present both things to your audience and say, listen, this is a fluid situation. It's constantly moving. Stay tuned. You don't always have to have the answers. You just don't. Report what we have. Tell people what you know. Get good sourced information. international politics is tricky shit. As straightforward as I could say. Like, this isn't really a clear cut. This isn't like, you know, Dems bad, Republicans worse. This isn't like one side wants to. I mean, for at least for us living in the U.S., our politics is pretty simple, honestly. Our domestic politics. I mean, and listen, you could give your opinion on things. You give your opinion all the time. But I think people have to be clear here what's going on. I think, people in the chat are talking about Michael right now, Michael Brooks. On this, I think he would have. I don't know if his specialty was South America and Africa when it came to international politics, but he would have. I honestly think he would have been very, very careful how he reported this and how he brought you guys information on this. I think he would have made that same argument. I think Egor did, obviously without that extra boost of himself being a Russian. But I think, from what I knew of him, he would have been very careful with this. And I think that's safe to say. That's not putting words in his mouth, which I would never do. I mean, this was his his thing, his beat. And listen, it's okay to be. People are saying that they were wrong too. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. But you shouldn't report something as, especially if you're a journalist, as God's word. Like the thing most people I think most people had a problem with that Hassan tweet that was flying around. That again, he did the right thing that good reporters and journalists do. He retracted, corrected. I think his role is very important. Someone who has this huge audience who watches him for entertainment because he's a video game streamer too, but also he's a leftist, personality. I think his role is very important. I mean, that's why I want him to do good work, because his role is very important. What he does is much more important than what I do, based on his viewership alone. But I think the problem people had with his tweet was that he said, like, he gave his opinion that, Putin's not going to invade Ukraine. He said, I will die on this hill. I'm like, you don't have to do that though. It's okay to say, I don't think Putin's going to do this, and not guarantee he's not going to. I mean, I think that's the problem most people had who were criticizing him. It's a fluid situation. Shit, I want to do the right wing thing. Let's do it. I still can't believe people thought I was like hating on people. Listen, I got no hate, especially for those right-wing personalities I'm going to get to in a second, and those anti-imperialist leftists who, like Egor said too, if you're a socialist, it should be implied you're anti-imperialist. So you're basically, I'm going to put this out there. You're basically doing a double, what is it? A double negative, right? An anti-imperialist socialist is basically saying you're an imperialist, right? By the law of a double negative. But I want people who I do agree with, or the vast majority of the time, who I do think do good work. For the most part, I want them to continue to do really good work and not lose credibility for silly for things that didn't have to happen. All right, let's get to the. Let's get to the right wing thing. All right. So I have a compilation of clips here. Let me drop this right now. Patreon.com/Matt Binder. Support the show. I'm giving you guys an extra. You're probably gonna get a 2 hour, close to 2 hour freebie at the very least. Patreon.com/Matt Binder. To support the show. Your financial support goes to helping me be able to spend more time on creating this content. And eventually, when enough people become patrons, I can put out more content. For example, when I hit 300 patrons, I launched a second show called Scam Economy, which is taking on the cryptocurrency grift via podcast and video. They're great writers and thinkers and skeptics of crypto out there. And I noticed there was and I am among them, and I read their work, and I criticize crypto as well. And I noticed that there was this, to me, this is the for people who say, oh, Matt, so he was on top of Gamergate, on top of QAnon, crypto is that next thing, if it isn't already. I mean, it's going to be bigger than those things too, if it isn't already again. So I launched that podcast / video show to help shine a light and get those great voices who are advocating against it, like David Gerard, who I think is fantastic, out there to an even broader audience. So scameconomy.com to check that out. Podcast here is doomedcast.com. What else? YouTube.com/Matt Binder. Leave a super chat. I see some super chats. Go. I'll read all the super chats when we go to the second half. And let's see what else. Twitch.tv/Matt Binder as well. You can drop. If you got a Amazon Prime subscription, you could give me a free Twitch Prime subscription, which is the equivalent of turning into Robin Hood, stealing from Jeff Bezos, and giving to me. That's right. You actually give me free money by subscribing to my Twitch channel with your Twitch Prime subscription, which you get monthly. And don't forget, if you do it once, when the next month comes around, you need to redo it. You need to manually resubscribe every month. So I appreciate anyone who's done that. Let's do this. And people are asking, tonight has been for the past month, Scam Economy night. But because of what's going on in Ukraine, I wanted to do another episode of Doomed. I did Doomed on Tuesday, which went up as a podcast yesterday as well, on the Portland shooting, which, again, very undercovered, far-right, armed resident in Portland started harassing protesters who were protesting the shooting of Amir Locke. A black man who was the victim of a no-knock raid that turned fatal by the Minneapolis police. And that man in Portland with his gun was unhappy that they were daring to express their First Amendment right. And so he shot them. And we now know that one person has died. We now know, I should say, that another person is paralyzed. And I believe 4 or 5 more are received injuries as well. So, all right. that's all my breakdowns of what's been going on and how you can support this show. Again, patreon.com/MattBinder if you can. If you can't, just tell people about the show. Oh, this is really important, actually, because it is a big help. Leave podcast reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for both Doomed and Scam Economy. If you listen to either and wanna and you enjoy it, leave a review. Even if you don't agree with me, but like the show, so you can debate me if you're a crypto bro, or talk shit in the chat if you're a right winger or whatever. I mean, leave a review that says you disagree with me, but you enjoy the show. I mean, that's what it's about. The review isn't that you agree with me. The review is that you are receiving entertainment or educational value from this program. So feel free to leave a good review if you can. Scam Economy and Doomed on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. All right, I'm going to do this right-wing thing, and then we'll take some calls. All right, let me pull up the clips. All right, so it is, in my opinion, quite frankly, an indisputable fact that over the past couple of years, the right wing have become big fans of Vladimir Putin. And I don't mean they criticize Obama or Biden for their handling of Putin. Of course you can do that. You can criticize them about U.S.-Russia relations and their policies and their interactions with Putin. That's not what I'm talking about. You could do that stuff without emphasizing how great or strong or cool or how much you like or love Putin, who is an authoritarian leader, treats his own people horribly. But, they can't just make the critique. They have increasingly shown their ass that they actually support the Kremlin and Vladimir Putin. And this was something that was said, and obviously you got your mainstream Republicans who still criticize Russia because of Cold War holdovers and stuff like that. But in terms of the Trump orbit, MAGA world, Make America Great Again, they're big fans of Putin. But this has all of a sudden become a controversial take since Putin has invaded Ukraine in just the past 24, 48 hours. And it's even more stunning because they're still showing their ass and sharing their like of Putin, their support of Putin, while he's doing this. And I can tell you that, and you don't have to believe me. That's fine. Why should you believe me? So what I did was bring you some proof. I have some recent clips I'm going to share with you that show exactly that dynamic that I just mentioned to you. Again, these aren't clips that are just criticizing U.S. administration's handling of whatever the current relations with Putin or Russia is. This is straight up, I should say, support of Putin. Let's play some of these clips. And what better person to start with than the guy who, quite frankly, helped get the right there, the 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Here he is, literally as Putin is doing imperialism on Ukraine. let me just bring us up to where we should start here. And let me turn the volume up. Let's do this.
Of what he's doing. I went in yesterday and there was a television screen, and I said, this is genius. Putin declares a big portion of the Ukraine. Putin declares it as independent. Oh, that's wonderful. So Putin is now saying it's independent, a large section of Ukraine. I said, how smart is that? And he's going to go in and be a peacekeeper. That's the strongest peace force. We could use that on our southern border. That's the strongest peace force I've ever seen. There were more army tanks than I've ever seen. They're going to keep peace all right. No, but think of it. Here's a guy who's very savvy. I know him very well. Very, very well. By the way, this never would have happened.
So we got genius. What was it? We got genius. Let's make sure we got all the this is genius. Oh, that's wonderful. How smart is that? The strongest peace force, because he knows what that really means. Strongest peace force I've ever seen. Let's continue playing.
Force I've ever seen. There were more army tanks than I've ever seen. They're going to keep peace all right. No, but think of it. Here's a guy who's very savvy.
Very savvy.
Very well. Very, very well. By the way, this never would have happened with us. Had I been in office, not even thinkable. This would never have happened. But here's a guy that says, you know, I'm going to declare a big portion of Ukraine independent. He used the word independent. And we're going to go out and we're going to go in and we're going to help keep peace. You got to say that's pretty savvy. And you know what the response was from Biden? There was no response.
All right, that's Trump. And if Trump's not enough for you, here's really, in my estimation, the real thought leader of essentially the conservative movement in the United States now, Steve Bannon, talking with the leader of literal mercenaries, Eric Prince, on his podcast War Room. Let's see what he has to say about Putin.
And the reason that Putin ain't woke, he is anti-woke.
The Russians, people still know which bathroom to use.
I should say, before we get to the rest of this clip, that this is them discussing why the right, or why people in general, should be for Vladimir Putin, why you should like the guy.
Ain't woke. He is anti-woke.
The Russians, people still know which bathroom to use.
They know how many genders are there in Russia?
2.
Okay. That's all of a sudden, that's not, they don't have the flags. They don't have the pride flags outside on their.
They don't have boys swimming in girls' college swim meets.
How backward.
It's embarrassing.
How savage. How medieval. How medieval. This is why this whole thing's a scam. It's a total and complete scam. And here's the beauty of it.
You should understand that here's Steve Bannon, and with Eric Prince of all people, talking about how great Putin is because they do Nazi crackdowns on the LGBT community, whose human rights are in danger every single day in the great country, under the great Kremlin in Russia. And that's what they like about it. And that's why that's why you as a conservative should like Putin. You know, he's selling you Putin. He's literally selling him to you. But again, if that's not enough, maybe the rank and file doesn't really feel that way. Well, here's Gavin Wax of the New York Young Republican Club on OAN just today. Let's see what he has to say. Let me just cue it up for a second.
And joining me now
here he is now.
Versus evil, the good guys winning the day. This is simply about trying to protect a state that's a thorn in the side to Russia, and Russia is a nationalistic Christian country that has been a thorn in the side to the globalists' agenda. So they're trying to do everything they can to isolate Russia, to marginalize Russia, and to expand these institutions, these global institutions' control over more areas of the world. And Ukraine is just the latest battleground in that fight.
Right. Russia's just a good Christian nationalist country defending themselves. Right. Yes, of course. But if that's not enough, here's Tucker Carlson just a day or two ago. And I grabbed this clip because it was already cut for me, exactly the part that I wanted to play for you guys. But it also happens to be Russia Today's version that they subtitled for their audience so they could read it and know what he was saying for the Russian-speaking audience. Just to show you how on point Tucker is to the Kremlin's propaganda arm, RT. Let's play this clip.
Since the day that Donald Trump became president, Democrats in Washington have told you have a patriotic duty to hate Vladimir Putin. It's not a suggestion, it's a mandate. Anything less than hatred for Putin is treason. Many Americans have obeyed this directive. They now dutifully hate Vladimir Putin. Maybe you're one of them. Hating Putin has become the central purpose of America's foreign policy. It's the main thing that we talk about. Entire cable channels are now devoted to it. Very soon, that hatred of Vladimir Putin could bring the United States into a conflict in Eastern Europe. Before that happens, it might be worth asking yourself, since it is getting pretty serious, what is this really about? Why do I hate Putin so much? Has Putin ever called me a racist? Has he threatened to get me fired for disagreeing with him? Has he shipped every middle-class job in my town to Russia? Did he manufacture a worldwide pandemic that wrecked my business and kept me indoors for 2 years? Is he teaching my children to embrace racial discrimination? Is he making fentanyl? Is he trying to snuff out Christianity? Does he eat dogs? These are fair questions, and the answer to all of them is no. Vladimir Putin didn't do any of that. So why does permanent Washington hate him so much?
Right, of course. Right. Yeah. And again, this is just Tucker Carlson. Maybe just, maybe this is just one. You go, okay, Matt, you gave me Trump, you gave me Steve Bannon, you gave me the head of the New York Young Republicans, you gave me Tucker Carlson. Come on, who else? That's it, Matt, right? Well, no. Because you can go back years, which I did, just to find some other takes well before even the current situation with Ukraine, to see that even then, since Trump has come into the picture, they've all of a sudden become very pro and supportive of Putin. Here is Alex Jones. Let me cue this up. Again, we're running the gamut here of all the different types of sub-genres, I guess you could say, subsections, subgroups of the conservative movement here.
I've never been to Russia. I know why they hate him so much, because if we start adopting what Putin's saying, the United States will be twice as powerful as Russia. This isn't about who's powerful. It's about Putin saying he doesn't like seeing America collapse and become wicked and demonic and feminized.
Right.
And he's telling the truth. He's trying to help us. And he's saying that the Bolsheviks did this to us and they're doing it to you. Wow. Vladimir Putin is saying the Bolsheviks are bad. That's why they fear him so much. And people think that they're going to duck criticism if they just attack Putin. I don't lionize any of these world leaders. I don't count on them. I count on God. But it's crazy. So that's a whole other subject there. But I could spend a whole hour just on this clip. It almost doesn't even do it justice, including one a month ago I never even got to. I just mentioned the headlines. I read a few quotes where Putin's like saying incredible stuff about America needs Jesus and needs God. If you don't have God, you're going to have the devil. I mean, just incredible. He opposes mandatory injections, says people should get vaccinated without coercion. And he's talking about his real vaccine that's also got problems. So just incredible.
There is the first of that But my guest earlier today, the Russian socialist writer, Egor Kotkin, said about that turn in Russia to align with the American conservative movement, Christian nation, family values. Let's go to another one. This is from, here's a clip. Again, there's no proof of right-wingers supporting Putin. Here's a clip from the Obama era, the Obama years, with Christian right-wing broadcaster Brian Fisher and Scott Lively. Let's listen to this one.
Russians have they've really stabilized now. They've got their legs under them after all the difficulties of Glasnost, and I think they're not going back to the Soviet model. They're reaching back to the Tsarist model, really, when the Russian Orthodox Church was very strong and they had Christian values in their society. And I think it's a positive thing for the whole world.
Well, you know, and again, I don't know where Vladimir Putin is in his heart, but he has said very kind things about Christianity. He celebrated last year the 1025th anniversary of the coming of Christianity to Russia. He's talked about the importance of Christianity and the history of Russia, how our values need to be shaped by Christianity. So, I mean, it's just a bizarre thing, Scott, and we got about 30 seconds left, just a bizarre thing that the leader of Russia now sounds more like somebody who supports and embraces Christianity than the president of the United States, which has always been a Christian country.
That's right, and across the board, our country is far more Marxist in the academia, in the media, in this presidential administration, and the Russian Federation has now just passed a flat tax, and business is booming in their country. It's like a role reversal, and I think that if other countries of the world adopt the Russian policy, we can build a barrier against this global homosexual agenda, and perhaps even start to roll it back here at home.
And there's the global homosexual agenda, right? And if that isn't enough, here's another evangelical radio talker on Putin too.
You want a clear villain in this story? It's hard to make Putin the villain if you have all the facts, because the CIA and Hillary Clinton tried to invade Russia, to undercut Putin, to bring the LGBT doctrine in. They had activists there. Putin locked it down, kicked them out, and clamped down like a good dictator does.
And here's one more I can pull up for you. This is Tucker Carlson again. And this one's pretty wild. This is from a few years ago as well. But this one's pretty wild, especially in light of the current situation with Ukraine and Russia. Let me cue this up for you. Here we go.
On the front lines. You think it's a joke?
Why do I care? Why do I care what's going on in the conflict between Ukraine and Russia? And I'm serious. Like, why do I care?
I'll tell you why.
And why shouldn't I root for Russia, which I am?
Because those of us who are watching...
Why should I care about the conflict between Ukraine and Russia? And why shouldn't I be rooting for Russia? Which I am, said Tucker. I mean, I don't know how much clearer you guys need to get. I've run the gamut, the Christian right, the cable news right, the podcaster right, the literal like think tank right, the former Republican president right, the young Republican right, the conspiratorial right. And to really just hone in here about how blatant this is to even people who are many times these guys' allies, here's a clip I found from a few years ago. I think this is 2018 or 2019. From Joe Rogan. It gets better. Talking to Jimmy Dore on the Joe Rogan Experience. Clip's pretty crazy, pretty incredible actually, with everything we know about Rogan and Dore and the current situation with Putin. Let's play that clip right now.
So you were getting emotional in the green room listening to Henry Rollins talk about Putin. You're about to quote Chomsky. Like, Yes. So
what was that?
I just caught the end of it. I went in the green room, and everybody loves Henry Rollins, right? And
Except Henry. That's why he's so good.
Maybe that.
He's constantly grinding. You know?
Yeah. But he was doing that thing about, Putin. There was a journalist who wrote a book about him, ended up dead. Putin's a bad guy. He's a bad guy. As opposed to who?
Well, no, but you mean he's definitely a bad guy, right? We all agree that.
Yeah.
Watch Rogan. Even Rogan. And wait for what he says. Even Rogan sees through this. I mean, it's something else.
Of course. But, I mean, just because other people are also bad guys, it doesn't negate his point of Putin being a bad guy. What he was saying is just that it's very bizarre that the Republicans, these people that were, at the forefront of the Cold War, these ones who are, these are the people that remember Khrushchev banging on the desk, saying, we'll bury you with Kennedy. And these people are now, they're whitewashing Putin. They're essentially, trying to paint out Putin to be a good guy because Trump is in this position where he's trying to be friends with this guy.
I mean, there you have it from Joe Rogan. He even saw it. The whitewashing of Putin from the conservative movement. I mean, it's if anyone tells you otherwise, these are just some clips I grabbed too. Literally, I spent maybe 30 to 45 minutes, because that's all the time I had to do this, compiling these clips. There's more. A lot more. And these are just the ones on, popular podcasts, cable news shows, media outlets. Imagine what's out there from right-wing streamers and podcasters who are about my size, or maybe even a little bit bigger, who aren't on the radar to get clipped up all the time. It's incredible. It's incredible. And I mean, again, you could just see how this affected the base too. I mean, you got guys literally showing up wearing shirts saying I'd rather be Russian than a Democrat. Again, no knock on the Russian people, but you know what they mean here. We got literal people in MAGA hats showing up to Trump rallies in Putin shirts. We got people at Trump rallies. This is funny because I know for a fact this shirt is a shirt that was made by people critiquing Trump. But this photo is from a collection of photos at a Trump rally. And there are multiple photos of this woman who is clearly very supportive of Trump and is wearing that shirt not as a joke. I mean, don't let the right gaslight you on this. Again, you can critique whatever Democrat, Joe Biden administration, Obama administration, you could do that. Even from a right-wing perspective, nothing wrong with that. But they feel the need to not only do that, but talk about how much they love Vladimir Putin because he shits on the LGBT community. He gives them the same Christian fascist ideological vibes that they love to spread over here. And because he's an authoritarian, excuse me, it's late. And they love their authoritarians. I mean, all right, ladies and gentlemen, it's already past midnight here. I've gone 2 hours. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll do maybe 30 to 40 minutes of phone calls. I'll open up the phone line, strictly phone calls. Open up Skype, type in Doomed Live. I will take your call. Give me a second to open up the phone lines. Again, patreon.com/Matt Binder. Let's talk. A few calls, and then that'll be the show. For all you freebies who aren't watching live, again, live stream viewers can stay, patrons can stay. If you're a freebie listener, this is where I say goodbye. But I mean, really, I gave you guys 2 hours now, so you guys basically got a bonus too. Take care, farewell, and I will see you all next time on Doomed. All right, we are back. Phone lines are open. Call in. I'll take your call. We had a few people who, and they got a bunch of super chats. Whoever just called in, call back. It hung up on you. Taking the next call, and then I'll take yours. Hey, who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it is Kowalski, and I will keep it brief.
Hey, Kowalski. Always a pleasure when you call in. What would you like to talk about?
Well, on topic, thought your rant today was actually pretty good. You actually touched on a lot of my views on this. When I was in college, I did a rather lengthy, in-depth report on Poland. I know, Kowalski, Poland. And some of it had to do with like the end of the Cold War and how Poland aligned with NATO at the end of it. I've always disliked the talking point that NATO expanded east, because when you read what the leaders of Eastern Europe were thinking at the end of the Cold War, they were moving west. The guy who led Poland into NATO had a lot of leftist ideology. The guy was part of the Socialist Party. He saw the West as a greater avenue for that cause, and NATO provides protection. At the end of the day, if you have to choose between two empires, because the fact is we live in a world of nation states, and as much as we would love to live in that post-nation state world of brotherhood and fraternity, we're not there yet.
Yeah,
and the pragmatic reality is that people will shoot you.
Right. I'm glad you're saying. I always say this too. Like I love the theory talk, and I love talking about the ultimate goals and everything. It's the same thing in my opinion, as people who say like, when they talk about race, I don't see color. Listen, I'd love to live in that world. I truly would. But the fact of the matter is,
tell that to the victims of redlining. Tell that to the people who are suffering the ism.
Right. We don't live in that world. So you got to see it. You got to see the fucking color. It's there right in front of you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my take too. And like, I also have an issue with the, again, I totally get and agree with a lot of the critiques of NATO. And we just heard from our guest in Russia how even he, a socialist there who is anti-Putin and the Kremlin, he also thinks that, NATO should be disbanded.
Which I agree with, but in order for that to happen, the reason NATO exists has to go away, which is Russian imperialism, which isn't going to happen until Russian leaders basically submit to what Europe is trying to do. be more integrated, be friendly, have open trade and open borders, basically. And if you're a hostile nation trying to enforce your will on your neighbors, that ain't going to happen, and NATO will continue to exist. That
Right.
is how power works between states. It's
Right.
just the reality.
Right. And also, I mean,
But-
these countries are asking to join NATO. Like, this isn't like, when we talk about NATO
Yeah.
expansion, we're not talking about like this isn't like a country, invading another country and taking it over, sort of like what we're seeing right now with Putin and Ukraine. Or any sort of scenario like that. It's literally those Eastern European countries saying, we are independent states, we would like to join NATO. I mean, I don't know how you can say that's. I mean, even like when you read about it from the perspective of like a neutral outlet that just like tells you the details of the growth of NATO, they don't even call it expansion because I guess they technically don't think that word fits. What's the word that I saw? Enlargement of NATO is what I saw.
Well, and not only that, like people act like Russia didn't do anything whatsoever for the impetus of Poland to join NATO. Or I speak of Poland because I've looked at it. I'm sure Hungary and Romania and everyone else had the same reasons. But like in Moldova, the Russia literally caused like a breakaway area to occur, much like what happened in Ukraine. And that area is basically subservient to the Russian state. Like they were doing subterfuge almost immediately once they reconstituted the Russian Federation and they could extend power again. Like this is just what big nation states do, especially ones that are, imperialist, capitalist. And when you're a leader of those countries, those interests will always naturally come out of that. So until you get to a post-capitalist world, this will always be how nation states behave. So like, I don't know if I have to choose between Russian imperialism or NATO imperialism, NATO's the better option because you're going to get a better deal. It's a bigger alliance. It's a wealthier alliance. And I mean, for the Baltic states, like, what are they supposed to do for defense? Like, there's no way for them to guarantee their sovereignty. There's no way for those people to live free lives. And newsflash to a lot of people, one of the reasons why the Soviet Union had a higher standard of living as opposed to the modern, like former Russian or former Soviet states, they extracted a lot of wealth from their client states that were in Eastern Europe. They sucked Germany dry. They sucked Hungary dry. Like they were a legit imperial power in the Cold War. They had to do this to compete with us. It's nation states. That's the problem at the end of the day. Bit of a ramble.
No, I
Not
think
exactly what I
also
meant to
also
do,
if
but
if this is all about NATO expansion, then Ukraine's been asking for 15 years now to join NATO, and NATO's turned them down every time. I mean, if we know that when the U.S. wants to expand or conquer or liberate, they fucking do it really fucking quickly.
yeah, it's funny how we don't expand our empire in the one direction where it will come into contest with a nuclear power. It's almost like we have a sane leadership that doesn't want to end the world.
Thanks for the call, Kowalski. Always a pleasure when you call in. I gotta say, do you know who Brian Danielson is? The wrestler Brian Danielson.
No, I
Look
do
him
not.
up. You're looking very much like Brian Danielson right now with that hoodie on. I almost thought he was calling in.
Almost made your night there.
He's a huge.
One more thing before I do go. I couldn't notice that you were going on a rampage on Twitter and couldn't manage to go to your DMs to send me an address.
Oh shit! I forgot again. We just had this conversation days ago. Oh shit! All right,
all good. I'm just giving you some crap, but
right.
You have a good evening. And
You too.
once again, good take.
Thank you. Take care.
See ya.
Bye. Oh. Hold on one second. There's like 20 people calling at once right now. Holy. And I somehow missed them all. I was sending a message to someone who was waiting before to call in, and then like 20 calls came in at once. Shit. Here we go. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, cool.
There is some
All right.
weird noise.
No,
on
hold
the
on.
line.
I gotta turn you off. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. I somehow missed them off. All right. Hold on.
There you go. Whatever you just. Oh, he hung up on himself. Oh no! All right. Hello. Oh, there's some weird buzzing on your line. Oh, it just disappeared. Perfect. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, no, I had. Yeah, I forgot to turn your video off, man.
It's back now. There's some weird
what's up?
clicking, or it goes away every now and then. Do you know what that is?Maybe you could, whatever you're doing now to stop it, keep doing it.
I think it might be my the fan on my computer was for some reason just making a noise. I don't know. Maybe my computer's been up for too long. I've been recording an album with it, so
okay. Well, now it's gone. So before it comes back, let's do this.
Yeah.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
Well, I've called you before, but it's been about a year. It's Jade Maroon. I'm half. I'm not half Icelandic, but I live half in Iceland and half in the States. It just depends on the year, kind of. I was just back in the States, actually. I called you last year and talked about political prisoners. I don't know if you remember.
If it's been, I can't even tell you what I talked about like last week. So.
No, but I called into Doom probably about a year ago, probably now, a little bit more, during the pandemic at least. Right, shall I put my video up or?
What do you got? Because I got a lot of callers and it's a shorter second half today, so let's get right to it.
Yeah. All right, I'll get right to it. Well, I'm calling because I'm calling to kind of relate a U.S. issue to what's going on here. It's kind of a stretch, but it's a very important issue. So and kind of a critique of the media, but not through you really, as you have been the only one I've been able to get through to and get any positive response. And I didn't think it was going to be this way with this issue, but anyways, I'll get right into it. So I'm working on political prisoner campaigns, and last year there was, I don't think there have been many victories within, or as many victories as there was this year, and that goes without saying that there wasn't a whole lot of media coverage. There was just a lot of boots on the ground, kind of, but we had. There was 3 people that got released. 2 people that got released, and there was a very big tribunal, United Nations tribunal, that was conducted by, or that was spearheaded really by an ex-political prisoner named Jalil Muntakum, and this it's really a shame that this is under the radar. But, basically, I'm relating it to the war right now because basically we've got prisoners of war that are in this country that aren't labeled as that. You know what I'm saying? We had a guerrilla warfare happening in the United States basically throughout the inception of the history of the United States all the way up until really the present. But I'm specifically talking about the Black Panther Party. I'm very privileged to work with Panthers. I'm constantly on calls with people like Sekou Odinga, and I work with a person in New York. I lived for a long time in New York, so I work directly with some Panthers in New York. One that has continued to do. He helped organize the one in Harlem, the march in Harlem, for example. That was right after. Right after, I'm sorry, I just can't, the murder in 2021. Help me out, please.
I'm trying to, I don't know who you're talking about.
The murder, the big big police killing in 2020. Sorry.
George Floyd.
George Floyd. Thank you. I just
You said
having a brain,
2021. That's what threw me off. I was trying to think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was throwing you a curveball. No, but so yeah. I mean, just to show you the scope of. I mean, I'm not like blowing smoke up your ass or anything like that. I may not be the best messenger.
I just feel like unfortunate that this is I don't have as much time today. So if you want to go longer on this, definitely call back in on the show where like I usually take calls for like I usually talk to.
But you can give me like 2 because I kind of
let's do it. Let's do it. Do like a minute or two left.
I'm like 6 a.m.
I hear you.
Yeah. You sure it's okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
But I just I don't. For one, I've been in my pajamas, not cross-pollinating for the past couple of days because I've been really sick. Like the New York mayor might deport me out of New York if I was there. You know what I'm referencing? No, I said I haven't been cross-pollinating, in the city the past couple of days.
Yes. Our wonderful mayor, right? Amazing.
Yeah. No, but no, I've like had a stomach flu or something, and I don't think it's COVID, but I haven't even had the energy to go out, so I've been sleeping the past 2 days almost, and that's why I'm kind of up this late. I watch your show all the time, but it's normally like when I'm in Iceland, it's normally, after the taping of it or whatever. But anyways, I just really want to get this out because like there was a tribunal that happened in like just a couple months ago. It was in front of a United Nations it was a United Nations tribunal. They called it the Mandela tribunals or the spirit of Mandela tribunals. I mean, this thing should have been all over the media, like not just independent media, but all over the media. Like I was just actually surprised Democracy Now! Didn't cover it because Amy Goodman normally covers it, stuff like this. But like it was spearheaded by an ex political prisoner who basically charged the United States with genocide. The United States has been charged with genocide of Black and Indigenous people, like by the United Nations. It's almost like the like how the United Nations like saw Palestine as a free as a sovereign country some years ago or whatever, and but it's gotten no coverage. And I mean it's a big deal, but it's only going to be a big deal if it's made a big deal, because it's the United Nations. It's not the United States, or it wasn't from a court of the United States. So, they'll just, pretend like it never happened. But anyways, on all accounts that were brought forward by an ex-political prisoner, and I will come on another show if you want.
Right. Let's do that because I'm running. I got a bunch of calls and I'm running out of time here. So let's do that. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Thanks for staying up and calling in. Really appreciate it. Bye.
All right. Thanks.
Sorry, I'm just running out of time. I got a lot of people on the line. More people than usual, actually. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello? Oh, it says hello?
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, wow. Hi, Matt. This is Rachel. Well, in Ukraine, actually. I'm kind of a little bit groggy in the morning. Someone just told me I should come and check in with you guys. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you for calling in. And yeah, what is it? It's 6 or it's 7 in the morning there right now?
Actually, no, it's 7 in the morning. And yeah, it's just because I'm I only got to bed like 3-ish. That I'm still kind of sleepy because yeah, actually I've been living in Kyiv for like 5.5 years or something, and I just last night, well, yesterday I ended up going going with my flatmates to their hometown in the northwest corner of Ukraine. So that's where I am right now. Yeah.
What are you somewhere that's seen what's like? Are you? I mean, it's pretty much everywhere it seems, but I'm sure there's some
Yeah, I
areas that are.
mean, this particular village is not so much. It's the regional capital here. Their aerodrome space was targeted by missiles from Belarus not far over the border yesterday. But this particular spot, I think I'm okay. Well, yeah, we're probably okay. As is, it's just there's a lot. It's just kind of very much up in the air.
Right. So what?
And yeah, mhm,
What?
yeah, go on.
You know, did you think this was going to happen as someone living in Ukraine? Or what was your?
Honestly, I feel like I don't think anybody really did, and the Nazi junkies and so forth. I think there are people who are claiming this and then moving the goalpost. It felt very much like a game, and I'd say even like people on the ground here know, even folks I know that do have kind of various connections that I mean I only know is on a need to know basis, and even that I can only say the full extent of this. I'd say pretty much everyone's shocked. Again, there's some talk that like, oh, this had been in the works since December, and who am I to say? I have no idea, but it does kind of throw a monkey wrench into pretty much everything. So that,
Right.
yeah, that I guess it's like throw caution to the wind, balls to the wall.
So
Yeah,
no, go ahead. I'm
I don't
sorry.
know.
Yeah, are people
No, no.
are people there where you are exactly? Are they have people, obviously you're still there, so I'm assuming other people are too, but has there been
Yeah.
in terms of, I guess, numbers of people evacuating, or then on the opposite side of the
Yeah, I don't know
spectrum?
I don't know the exact numbers,
Of
but
course,
yeah,
right.
for sure. Uh, I mean, presumably uh, Poland was the biggest, Slovakia, Romania. I haven't heard, I don't know what, it would be very curious about, I'm just, yeah, I'm listing the, the EU border countries. Um, yeah, I don't know. Hungary, I'm not sure about. And well, Moldova is what it is. Again, there's actually also, I don't know how confirmed that there were missiles so Moldova is on the south west corner of Ukraine and kind of between Romania and Ukraine, and there's a little breakaway region of this tiny country, well, called in English or Latin Transnistria, and Russian they call it Pridnestrovia, which is like this frozen Russian post-Soviet frozen conflict zone on the Moldovan, Romanian, Ukrainian border, and there's talks that there were been missiles launched from there towards again the south of the country, or not even southwest, the south of the country. Um, and someone who's even saying that the proximity to Romania of that and could as a NATO member. Again, I don't remember there's so much terminology that's over my head, but um, that could again have some. I can't think of it, but basically, just saying is that region is that those strikes in particular could, yeah, like trigger something in.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, kind
No,
of
no,
not
it's
fully awake. It's
no, I completely
very,
and I really
very. I'm stunned.
I totally
So,
understand. I really appreciate you calling in.
but yeah, I mean, and for my part, I really didn't want to leave Kiev. I wanted to stay. Hell, I was like, hey, take me further east. I want to stand with people here. At it was only towards the very end. It's like, all right, fine, I give in. But yeah, it's yeah, but it's like that dumb British thing. Well, okay, I used to think it was really like keep calm and carry on was just like corny as fuck. But hey, I
Sort of
kind of see
fits.
the merit to it.
Right. So is there a feeling or of yours, even of your own, about
Did I lose you?
how no, hello?
Oh no, hi, can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Do you
Okay, so I'm just rambling. Yeah.
no, it's okay.
Yeah.
Do you have some
No,
sort
no,
of
go on.
do you have some sort of feeling of how this is going to play out, like what you think or imagine what's going to
Can
end
you
up
hear me
happening?
now?
Hello? I think I'm losing you again. This happened in the very beginning when you first
Okay,
called.
yeah, maybe my connection's not so
All
good.
right.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah,
Okay.
you hear me?
Anything like yeah,
Yeah,
any
yeah.
last thing you want,
I was going to say
anything you wanted to
what you think like the best case scenario here is, or even what you consider might end up happening over the next couple of days, like what you imagine or what you hope. I mean, obviously, I
I
guess.
have at this rate, all my expectations, all my everything I thought was out the window in that I thought that there was a bluff, a flex, you know, come to the very edge of doing something, and then I was saying it could even be its own mini Cold War, and nope. So I don't know. Yeah, it's wild. And also I have, a lot of friends in Russia, and it's people are basically being prosecuted for protesting. Like even putting up a sign in your window. And like known activists have been like are surveilled at home, if not um, taken into custody before anything happens. So I could say it's like the hunger for it out there is not what I don't know. I don't know. That's my simple answer. So
Well,
this is not a popular thing, but yet that seems to make no difference. So
Right. Rachel, I really appreciate you calling in from
yeah, absolutely.
Korea, and I know
Sure.
it's early, so I can't thank you enough for taking the time, and I hope you stay safe, and I hope everyone there hope for the best. It's a
Yeah, thanks.
difficult
It's
situation.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, sure.
Definitely keep in touch though, and I'd love to talk with you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess this isn't even that early. If you do these late night streams, it's just that again, I spent all of yesterday traveling and dodging tanks. Well, not quite. Well, not dodging them, just watching them
Go
and
by.
getting. Yeah. More. I saw like again like hundreds and hundreds of manned tanks rolling east along the highway as everybody else kind of shuffled west in crazy traffic. So I'm yeah, that's an image one does not soon forget. So
Right. All right, Rachel. Have a great day. I hope
all
you
right, thank
take
you.
care of yourself.
Yeah, we'll do. All right, and thank you all, and have a good one.
Take care.
All right, sure.
Oh, but that was I feel so bad. I can't thank you enough, Rachel, for calling in again. I'll take maybe 2 or 3 more calls if they're quick. Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Olaf from Brooklyn, Matt.
Hey, how are you? Oh boy, I could barely see you.
Okay.
You're in the darkness of the night.
Yeah, I'm outside on my building roof.
Here, let me pull you up on the feed so everyone can see exactly what I'm talking about. You look like
Hey,
I'm trying to think of the superhero you look like. Where is the where did my I lost my window. Here it is. All right, so what's up?
Oh, it's about the whole. Let's keep it a topic. I actually wanted to mention a lot of stuff, but Kowalski kind of just hits more in all the facts and everything. I'm just like, yeah, I understand that, but I really want to congratulate you on that rant that you had, which was super amazing. Talk your shit.
Thank you.
Talk your shit. Stomp your yard. Like, oh my God, this whole entire week, when it like throughout the whole entire time when hearing about this like Russia Ukraine like stuff, it was like, okay, America bad. Everyone knows America bad. Everyone knows the imperialism that America has participated for so many years is bad. NATO not that great, but then like Russia's not good neither.
Right. It's like it's the same response you get when you like talk about poverty in the U.S. and people go, "Oh, but what about how bad poor people in Africa have it? Starving people in Africa." It's like you could both things are things we should discuss and talk about. You can talk about poverty in the U.S. without with keeping it in the context of people are starving in this country too.
Basically. And then like what else I want to hit on real fast? Because it was just like, okay, NATO's bad, Russia's bad, but then like what does Ukraine want? The people that are going to be suffering the most, what do they want? And you have people that's trying to say NATO's bad, like literally blindly not look at the problem that like Ukraine is about to face. So it's like that was my whole argument basically when I like, even for people that are on our side of or that see our perspective stuff, like they will always go like, okay, this and that, but then like NATO bad. And it's like, no. Just we all understand NATO's bad. We can just move off that point. We gotta like think about, okay, what are the problems that we need to address currently right now? And like we could talk about like how we could like get away from future stuff that will like, okay, NATO's bad because of this in the future when things have been resolved. But currently, Ukraine needs help, period. End of story. I don't want to take up the time too long because I know you got to go to bed soon and then like people are also online. But then like, funny enough, I mainly called in because if it wasn't for like one of my family members going out with like a Russian person and like having a Ukrainian friend, so like it's just like this mismatch and stuff. Like he has family in like Russia still at the moment, and it's like, oh shit, like they're finding out like the economy is hitting hard right now, like automatically. You don't know how fast it hit. Like they cannot like take out money. They cannot cash out money from their banks right at the moment. Like I was told that I was like, because my family member is gonna get a hat from her boyfriend's mom, and then like she was like, okay, like maybe like I'll go to the bank just to get like send stuff, but she couldn't get any money. I'm kind of cold right now because I'm outside. But
I hear you. Thanks for the.
And then like her.
Oh! I thought you were telling me you were gonna jump because of that.
And then her friend, basically, who's Ukrainian, she has family members, and then they just saw like planes fly right over them, and they're totally scared of what's going on right now. But like, I want to say one last thing: when it comes to these types of issues, hate the government, don't hate the people. It's the same thing that we like. You hear people, China is like this authoritarian like regime that doesn't give a damn about people. Hate the regime. Don't hate the people. The people are just caught up in this nonsense. And that's all I have to say because Kowalski stole a lot of points I wanted to say also. Plus his
that Kowalski. Thanks for the call, my friend. Always appreciate it. Take care.
Peace.
All right, I'll take we're almost at one. I'll do maybe two more calls depending on how long they go. But let's I want to try to fit as many people in here as possible. Oh my God, what is this? Do I really want to watch these? Someone sent me this Max Blumenthal Jimmy Dore clip. Do I want to do this to myself? I do want to do this to myself, don't I? I'm a masochist. Let's watch this clip. Oh wait, someone's calling me. I'll take the call and then I'll watch the clip to end the show. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Dave from Jamaica. What's up?
Hey,
Matt?
Dave from Jamaica. How are you? What would you like to talk about?
Well, I want to shout out Rachel first of all, because me and Rachel are good friends from a while back.
Okay.
So I'm happy to hear that she's safe. But yeah, it's kind of nerve-wracking.
Right.
This whole thing. Also, I guess maybe I'm more of a, I guess from my perspective, I'm always more of a NATO skeptic because I tend to look at things of what protections does it actually provide, and that's how I tend to look on things. But I think the point that you've made from your previous videos is that there is some serious right-wing international solidarity going on. That's the type of stuff that scares me more than anything else.
And the funny thing is, there's I mean, I've seen this this conversation going on in my chat here. The neo-Nazi movements in Ukraine, which exist, just like
they do,
just like they exist in many other countries, though. Like,
but think of the Spider-Man meme. Like, modern day Russia has its own neo-Nazis.
Yeah, I mean, yes. The idea that Ukraine is some sort of special case here, where they're ridden with neo-Nazis. I mean, there is pretty much like a sizable militia group in eastern Ukraine that rose to prominence during the 2014 Maidan, and that's caught a lot of headlines, and it's definitely worth covering. I believe I've had an episode where they came up, maybe even more than one. I think it might have been with Michael Hayden. I might be wrong. I can't remember. It's off the top of my head. But, I mean, it's certainly an issue. It's certainly a problem, and they are bad. But, I mean, if you believe that Putin is going in to liberate Ukraine from this militia of neo-Nazis, that's like, what, a few thousand maybe, if even that? I mean, then I guess someone's got to come and liberate America from the 3%ers and the Proud Boys. And
somebody has to liberate Russia from their neo-Nazi paramilitary.
Yeah. Come save us from Patriot's Prayer and all the other neo-Nazi, the KKK. Save us from all these. And Russia, of course, too, with their own neo-Nazi group stomping out the LGBT community over there. I mean, someone go to Britain and stomp out their neo-Nazis, their skinhead groups, their racist skinhead groups, I should say. Like, literally, every country's got a neo-Nazi problem.
Which is very disturbing in of itself, right? So, but I think listening to Rachel, and I've talked with her too, is I think a lot of people got the Putin miscalculation wrong, including myself, because I thought the most he was going to do is pull out Crimea and shave off some very pro-Russian land off of Ukraine. But the thing is, and this lesson I seem to constantly have to relearn, is the mind of a right-winger when it comes to this stuff is almost impossible to predict, because this can blow up in Putin's face disastrously. As we know, US got beat by the Afghan Taliban, right? And they didn't have it because fighting an insurgent war is going to bog anybody down. And what tends to happen is any country you invade, there will be an insurgency. It's almost guaranteed.
Right.
But
there's a message in my chat I want to get to really quick. Kevin says Azov, which is the Azov battalion, is part of the Ukrainian military, which is true. There is a Azov battalion, a right-wing extremist and neo-Nazi Ukrainian National Guard unit, and that's certainly a problem. Let me tell you about the...
Not good. Yeah.
Right. But also, while there may not be a specifically named battalion, let me tell you about the U.S. military's neo-Nazi problem as well. I mean, it's you'll probably find it in every military in any country across the world. I mean, the idea of the military is going to either breed or look very nice and bring over people who have neo-Nazi views. I mean, I don't know if this is all that like unique to Ukraine.
I think I would say it's disturbing for sure.
Right.
But I think people are obscuring the fact that it's the same. Russia's a right-wing country. They have neo-Nazi militias too. So Putin's claim of fighting Nazism is a joke, right? I think people should, and I think a lot of lefties, and I understand where the defense of Russia is coming from, because the reality is there are no strong, powerful left-leaning countries. That's the fact. And that's why you see people get kind of emotionally attached to, let's say, a China or a Russia, because the grim reality, there are no strong left-leaning countries. And for some, that's a very hard pill to swallow.
Right. And as someone else pointed out,
and that's why you're seeing some of that.
Right. Someone else pointed out that, Russia has their own, the Sparta Battalion, which is
Sparta. There you go.
their right-wing, far-right militia part, like the rebel militant group is what's coming up here. Yeah. I mean, listen, not good. If I like I said, I think I've covered them before and part of a broader episode. If I haven't, I certainly will be looking at doing an episode on them, because this show, well, I think one thing you can't accuse me of is not covering fascist groups.
But the thing is, it's I said people were caught off guard. Even Ukrainians, Russians were caught off guard by this invasion, because on a tactical level, it makes no sense, right?
Right.
I don't see how Russia holds Ukraine for any period of time. Evidently their plan is to kill off all the political leaders and see what happens there.
That's what my guest today said. Yeah, you might have missed him. He's a socialist out of.
Oh, I heard. I'm so sorry. I just got so thrashed from work, so I
that's
just
fine.
caught him at the end.
Yeah, he's a socialist living in Moscow, born and raised in Russia. And he said that's what he thinks basically too. They're not looking to occupy. Putin just basically wants to install a puppet regime, and he's gonna try to take out the political leaders, the military, and basically it'll just be like a Russian puppet state.
Well, but I have to say that is insane. I don't. I mean, you looking at it purely tactically, I don't think it's going to work. Right? It's just going to be unstable. All they're going to do is turn it into an unstable state, because I guess most of the Ukrainian people are not really down for that, right? And it is. This is why right wingers are so dangerous, regardless of where they're from or what ethnic background they are. This is pure insanity. It can't.
Yeah.
It is. I just do. And I think that's what threw people off guard. Everybody knew Putin was bad, but people thought he was a rational actor. This is not rational behavior,
right,
in any measure. And I think that's kind of what throwing a lot of people for a loop. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, there's some pretty intense stuff coming across my Twitter feed right now from it's bad. It's bad. Yeah.
But thank you for taking my time, and it's good to hear from Rachel and Kowalski always with the good points, because even if we're not agreeing 100%, his points were very solid on the situation. Right. I think Putin is using NATO expansion as an excuse, but I don't think it's what's driving him. Clearly,
right. I think it's bothered him.
You need to listen to that speech.
Right. I think it's bothered him, but
it's
I mean,
very anti-communist.
There are other
pretty right wing.
Yeah. I mean, there are other countries that border Russia that are NATO members, and he's never invaded them before that happened, or it's. I do think that's exactly spot on, right? I mean, even my guest who's lived his whole life in Russia knows Putin more than any of us, just because he's a Russian national. Said the same thing, that certainly it's been an issue, but in terms of this specific moment, it's had little to no influence. He said, his exact words, little to no.
So I guess I'm just flabbergasted by the whole situation.
Yeah,
it makes. I don't know what their plan is to endure these sanctions, because that's why I'm also not very pro-sanction, because they generally, from my experience, the object is to make people suffer so much they overthrow their leadership, and I don't see that happening.
Right.
So I wouldn't say I'm pro-sanction. I'm anti-war, but I'm not pro-sanction because I don't think they're going to work in this case.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
If anything, it'll probably boost Putin's support.
I don't know, honestly, what the answer to something like this is. Like, I really don't know.
I don't know either, because when you throw nukes into the game, what makes anybody invasion proof is basically owning a nuke.
Right.
Like,
Right.
North Korea is a horrible place, but they got nukes, so nobody's going to trouble them.
Right.
And similarly, Russia's doing bad stuff. They got nukes. Nobody's going to trouble them. And I guess that would apply for the U.S. as also when they do their imperialist stuff as well.
Right.
So I don't know what people are supposed to do. And I don't want to give a doomer message, but I don't know what advice to give people in this situation at all.
Right.
But anyway.
All right, thanks for the call, Dave.
End it on such a note, thanks, man.
It's honestly over here. It's late, so basically I'm very tired, and so the callers are helping me greatly by taking over most of the talking in these calls. To be fair, have a great day or night. I forget what time is it where you are.
Same as yours.
Oh,
we're
right.
Really
So
pushing
we're both up. We're both up late. Yeah. All right. Have a great night.
Same to you.
Bye. All right, it's already 3 hours. I gotta end it. I gotta say farewell. I gotta call it a night. So I'm not gonna watch that. I'm not gonna pain you with that Dore Blumenthal clip either. I'm gonna read the super chats, and that's the show. Jade Maroon, whose call I took before. Please take my call if you can. I have a very important connecting topic. Skype name star. Okay. I took your call. We'll have to do it again though. I know you didn't get out what you wanted. We'll have to do it again for sure. I promise. On a day where we have more time. Bobby Squinch with a super chat. This caller's perspective is very enlightening and measured. Thanks for giving him the time. I think this was about the guest, the main guest, right? Brandon Hill with a $10 super chat. Thanks for doing what you do, Matt. Love the show. Solidarity with Ukraine. Los Carlos with a super chat. How can I call into the show? Oh, I don't know if you saw, but it's doomed live. Please call in next time. I'll take it for sure. If I didn't take your call, I don't remember. Jerry Ty. Great show tonight, Matt. I didn't trust the State Department at first either due to all the past foreign policy failures, but I was clearly wrong. Again, I mean, I think that skepticism is fine. I mean, you should. That's good. But I think in this specific situation, where I thought from the get-go it wasn't so clear. I thought, this isn't like a situation where we're getting involved in the Mideast or something. We're dealing with another superpower here, Russia, and a country torn in between, Ukraine. It wasn't so simple to me as U.S. bullying smaller, more fragile, at the very least, nation, as has been the case at least in most of my adult life. This wasn't a war on terror situation. Do you know what I mean? That to me was obvious, regardless of anything. This was a different situation than what we're used to, at least as me in my 30s. Paradise Lay, The super chat. Hassan has been constantly and consistently said he was wrong. Bad faith people have been harassing him. You both have journalistic integrity. I mean, I honestly, when I tweeted that silly tweet, which was just like Putin is also bad or mad, it turns out, I was just being silly. I wasn't attacking him or harassing him. Clearly, he might have taken it that way based on his reply, and other people did. But I mean, that's not what I was doing. And I don't know how much more to say that. That's good that he did that. I completely agree. That's integrity. I think people are really misconstruing what I said, to be quite frank. Vanguard Supreme with the super chat. They like whether it's got integrity or not, like Gamergate supporting unethical YouTubers in the name of ethics in video games journalism. Paradise Lay said, nobody wanted to think, another super chat from Paradise. Cool, thank you. Nobody wanted to think that Putin would invade. Right, but I mean, you're reporting information, not your hopes and dreams and feelings. I mean, I think you got to be careful. It's just that I truly don't know how much more to put that forward. You got to be careful. Zachamania, the super chat. Thanks, Matt, for all the work lately. We love you, bro. Thank you. Vinny Holiday with the super chat. Dude, loved your rant on Majority Report. Thank you. Paradise said, don't have to read my super chats. I'm sorry. I saw that after I read your super chats because I basically go straight down the line. So it's in the order I receive them. I don't go backwards. I have an app that pulls them and lists them as they came in. I'm sorry. I don't think what you said is wrong, or I don't think you're knocking me, or you're sharing your opinion with me and sharing, I don't take anything personally. That's the weird thing. People thought I had some personal beef with people I was criticizing. That was another weird response. There was some personal vendetta. Why do I don't get involved with drama outside of what their actual political opinions or information are. I don't care. In fact, I've been on the record defending Hassan from people who knocked him for using the money that he's made from his success. That's ridiculous. I've got no personal problem with anybody. Frankly, I don't care enough to have that sort of drama. I've been drama free of that type of stuff for, like, even in my personal life for many, many, many years. Like, since like high school. I immediately do not associate with anyone who has that sort of personality where they seek drama and beef. It's just Tony with super chat. Great show tonight, Matt. Great interview. Thank you, Tony. Renee with 2 super chats. I disagree with Kowalski about NATO because Turkey and about the Nazis, but hey, I got Rachel to call in. I was skeptic at first about American intelligence, but I saw how their regular troops could be used as a pretext, and I don't see Putin that crazy. All right. Eagle Hawk says Matt never gets into drama. He smashes it. I mean, I enjoy reporting about like people who are very wrong, like Jimmy Dore, and knocking them for their opinion and what they're spreading. But like, I have no personal opinion of Jimmy Dore like in real life. I think he's a bad influence because of the shit he spreads. I think he's got dangerous rhetoric. But in terms of like a personal jealousy, or I don't care about that stuff. JB says, did Binder not acknowledge he's not an expert on this issue on MR today? Frustrating to see him act as one tonight. Love the show. I don't think I'm reporting anything as my expertise. Kowalski called in and I had a discussion with him. I don't think I'm... And then I had a literal socialist writer who's a Russian national living in Moscow on the show to explain more too. I don't think I've portrayed myself as an expert on the situation. I've asked questions. I've shared thoughts in terms of to further discussion. But I don't think I've told you guys that this is what's going on or this is what's happening and this is what you should believe or know. Tina with a super chat. Perfect show. Thank you. Good night. And with that, I think that's the perfect show to end it. The perfect comment to end it on too. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I did not expect to do a 3-hour show tonight, but I did. So, if you're not already subscribed on YouTube, youtube.com/MattBinder, twitch.tv/MattBinder, patreon.com/MattBinder. Take care of yourself wherever you are. Thoughts to the people who are directly affected by this. It sucks. It really does. No other way to put this than with my straight up opinion. It's horrible. It sucks. To the people in Russia who don't want this, to the people in Ukraine who are being subject to this, stay safe. And I will see you all next time on Doomed.